So what is, so how do I know about cultures? Or how do I understand, how should I be thinking about what cultures are and how cultures interact, how they get their safety, significance, and belonging? So many of us have been in restaurants that I guess larger society may deem cultural restaurants of some sort, right? And so, what are some things that you notice about those restaurants when you go into one of these so-called ethnic restaurants, right? So there is the food, the flavor, and the aroma of the food. There are typically pictures around that space. There are artifacts, sometimes statues or icons from that culture. And as you go from one of those restaurants to another restaurant, you notice that those aromas are different, the colors are different, the iconography is different, the statues are different, and why is that? And so we talked a little bit earlier about this idea of context, right? So each of those cultures comes from a different context, a geographic context, a political context, a governmental structured context, where these artifacts, the things that we can see about a culture, have been manifested or created. And so when anthropologists go back and they dig up things, what they find are the remnants of past cultures. And so what they do with that is they look at these things, they look at the context by which they found these things, and they try to create or recreate a story of the values that are associated with the things that they find. And so looking at the Egyptian tombs, looking at native burial mounds, particularly here in the United States, what we start to recognize is that there are values very much attached to the things that we find. So that is also true about us. So for those of us who have grown up in the United States or naturalized citizens, we recognize that the flag is a thing. It is an artifact, but it also represents a set of values. Right? And so there's a connection between the artifact and the values. And so the flag is an artifact, but it represents a set of values, particularly here in the United States. And I would say that other countries across the globe, their flags represent a set of values that they have. And so why is that important? It is important because when I see an artifact, I have to recognize that that artifact has value to the person who is demonstrating or has that artifact, right? And so if someone sees a crucifix, that is an artifact, but that artifact comes out of values, right? And when I see a sun and star, I have to recognize moon and star, when I see that moon and star, I have to recognize that that is a statement of value. And so when I see a person wearing a hijab or a yarmulke, I have to recognize that although those are great fashion statements, they are also statements of values. And so as we think about the clothes that we wear, the cars that we drive, the places that we live, I want us to also recognize that those are artifacts of culture and that those have values that are attached to those artifacts. There is a reason why some people drive a BMW and some people drive a Toyota. And I would say that it is because of the how they see those brands and the values that they have. I do think that it's interesting that there is a relationship, and I'll let you explore that, between the word logos and logos, but that's a whole nother conversation we don't have time for today. And so logos are artifacts that companies want people to buy into, right? And so certain brands put their logos in very prominent places, or to make their logos prominent in the things that they create, because they want people to associate their artifact with a set of values. And so when we think about culture, when we see the way people are dressed, when we see how they behave, when we see all of these external things, we have to remember that those external things are physical representation of values, And so if I attack someone's artifact, I am also attacking that's right, their values. And so if I want to make an ally, if I want to make a friend, or if I don't understand something, it might not be wise to attack it, but actually to ask questions about it, to be curious, to develop a relationship where we can talk about what those things are. All right?